the United States will interdict all oil shipments that are leaving Venezuela. And most of those are going to China. About 80% of Venezuela's crude is going to China. And this follows up from the seizure of the oil tanker last week. So he seized an oil tanker. Presumably, we're going to take the oil. This weekend, he said that actually all of the oil exports will be shut down, and that effectively destroys Venezuela's economy. And as we talked about with Iran, other conflicts, this is that maximum pressure strategy, and this is just the latest escalation. So it would be fitting if tonight there was some declaration of ground strikes, let's say. This is something they've been talking about for a long time. They've assembled this armada, this giant naval force. It's a carrier strike group. I think it's 10 warships in total, 10,000 troops, F-35 squadrons. They have been stationing in Trinidad and Tobago and Puerto Rico off the coast. And they've been threatening for a long time that all of these naval strikes, I think there's been about 25 maritime strikes against these little drug boats, killed nearly 100 people. They've been saying for a long time that eventually that will progress into targeted airstrikes on the ground at military facilities, airports, where there's drug trafficking happening, and they're actually going to bomb Venezuela's territory. Maduro's been preparing for that. They've been shutting down highways. They have been getting ready. So it seems that that would be logical that Trump would announce there would be some major action tonight. That being said, you sort of alluded to this earlier. You said it could just be an hour of Trump bragging about his accomplishments. And I think it's totally possible that it could also just be a load of crap. Because how many fake outs have there been this year where Trump says, I have an Oval Office address. I'm addressing the public from the White House at noon tomorrow. And he gets up and it's like, we have the greatest economy. The stock market is back. Inflation isn't real. Affordability is not real. So I'm sort of 50-50. 50% chance it could be a load of crap and it's just a lot of self-aggrandizement. 50% chance it could be a declaration of war on Venezuela. And then how it progresses, if I had to guess, I would think that this is just ratcheting up the maximum pressure. And maybe this is, this is just a shot in the dark. I don't know that he's announcing a swift operation to capture Maduro or invade the country. I don't think there will even be an invasion, strictly speaking. They have about 10,000 personnel stationed off the coast. It could be the case that they have put together a larger force covertly somewhere else. That's not enough people to invade Venezuela. You had 20,000 invade Panama, and that's a country that's a fraction of the size, fraction of the population, smaller military. So I don't think you're going to get a full-fledged invasion with that size of a force. I think what you might get is a tightening of the noose, and they're going to choke Venezuela off more. So they have the blockade. Now if they start initiating ground strikes, maybe there's some other covert actions by the CIA, which they announced earlier in the year would be operating in the country. Maybe they're looking at something more limited just to increase the pressure slightly more. And maybe that's the play. Now, will that succeed? I guess it depends largely on how they carry this out and how competent the military is. I don't have very high hopes for it. I don't think that, the military is really prepared for something like this. It came together very quickly. Military's not been extremely effective in the past so many years. They're really good at dropping bombs from aircraft like they did against ISIS and like they did against Iran. But a ground operation, I feel like we haven't seen anything like that in a very long time. So the odds of success, I don't know that it's particularly high. And I don't know that that's even something the American public is looking for. Like we talked about in the previous segment, as always, this is the appeal to the voters before the midterms.
So this was about 2 weeks or so ago on the Alex Jones show, and this was such a great insight from Nick, long before it even happened. He predicted basically most of it. He's like, I highly doubt it's going to be a ground invasion. It might be a covert op. The CIA might have put some plans in there a bit ago. And yeah, he's correct about most of that. Yes, it's true that we managed to kidnap Maduro, which was super impressive, and I'm glad we had no casualties. But most people seem to think we've automatically taken over Venezuela and we now own their oil. That's not true at all, unfortunately. There's a big difference between kidnapping the leader of a country versus actually taking over that country. The latter would involve taking over government institutions, the courts, military, law enforcement, etc. We're realistically not going to be able to do any of that without major boots on the ground and a protracted war. Not to mention, it's completely unrealistic to expect the American public, both left and right wing, to sign up for another war. That is to say, that oil is still quite a ways out of reach.
If you're struggling on your domestic agenda, if you're flailing because of a domestic scandal, you always go for a quick and easy war. Like we talked about with George Bush in Persian Gulf, or in Panama where they did regime change, or even in Grenada with Reagan. You always go for a quick and easy layup, makes Americans feel confident. I don't know that that will even have the same effect. First of all, we don't know that it will be entirely successful or on what timeline, or if there will be any kinds of complications. Secondly, is this really what the people voted for? I think the people voted for lower prices. People voted actually to end wars, not start new ones. I don't know that regime change was really part of the mix. I think actually we want the opposite. People voted for an end to free trade, something like tariffs or a more protectionist agenda, and we're just not succeeding on any of those fronts. So I don't know how you bring that to Republican or Democrat voters as some sort of huge victory in 2026, especially when almost everything else is looking really bad. The deportations aren't happening, as we've talked about. The economy's not where it needs to be. Many people are predicting potentially an imminent recession, a housing bust, the AI bubble might burst, have a lot of red flags and early warning indicators in the economy. How much is that even going to move the needle? I'm skeptical that that's going to have a big impact. So this is the playbook. I think that if Trump really wanted to have any kind of recovery before the midterm elections or at all, I think you have to refocus on the domestic agenda. That is what people want to see solved. You got to get those deportation numbers up. You got to build a border wall. You got to end the war in Ukraine somehow, some way. You have to end the war in Gaza. It looks like even that is coming apart. You need to fix the economy. You need to do something domestically. Get a super bill together. Get an omnibus bill together. Use budget reconciliation, which they have for the fiscal year 2026. Use national defense authorization or whatever you need to do. Use one of those measures to get a super bill passed. Get Republicans and Democrats together and just pass something.
Again, totally agree with all that. I'm glad the operation was successful, and I'm even more glad that it was a limited operation, just kidnapping the leader and not actually a protracted war. But Trump has not ruled out more boots on the ground. If you watched his live stream at 11 a.m. that same day, he talked about the fact that he's not afraid of putting boots on the ground. And I'm not sure how much that's going to actually help him in the midterms. And also, I'm not even really sure what he's doing there. He said this was about the drug cartels. Now, yes, it's true that drugs from Venezuela do come up here to the United States. But the reality is, that's only about 8 or so% of the total drugs flowing into our country. You want to know where most of our drugs do come from? Colombia and Ecuador. Colombia and Ecuador ship about 75% of the illegal drugs that are coming into our country. So if we're really serious about countering drugs, that's who we should be going after. Not to mention those countries are way smaller and easier to manage. But we're not going for the low-hanging fruit with the most amount of juice. It just doesn't make any sense.
Make life better for Americans. But I fear, and this is something you pointed out too, not only will that not happen, it may actually even get worse because, as you said, according to Susie Wiles in an interview this weekend, she's going to have Trump campaigning in 26 like he was in 24. And a lot of people don't think about this, but the president of the United States, like anybody, only has so many hours in the day. And so if we're going to engage in this huge campaign in 26, Trump is going to be flying around doing rallies. The guy's 80 years old. You can't be doing 4 rallies in a day like you were doing in 2020. And if you do, you're not going to have time and energy for literally anything else.
And that's perfect for the deep state to come in and sneak stuff past him. I noticed Wiles 3 days ago in a TV interview says he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be back on the campaign trail. Then I see him yesterday. Well, I just heard I'm going to be on the campaign trail. He's literally admitting that she's directing him.
Which is so gross. The whole point of Trump is that he's supposed to be the boss. Who is Susie Wiles? Nobody elected her. She's a lobbyist from Florida. And you're right. He goes, yeah, well, I guess I'm going to be campaigning. She's the boss. And you make a good point. If Trump is out there on the campaign trail, first of all, he's already falling asleep in every meeting, and which is look, the guy's an old man. I think everybody would understand that. But now you can't be doing both of those things. You can't walk and chew gum at the same time then. If he's going to be running around the country, if Susie Wiles is going to be running him ragged, not only can he not focus on the agenda, but you're right, this is where he loses control of the White House, which is always the concern, that the cabinet members, that the lobbyists, that the special interests, when Trump is out of the House, when daddy's not home, other people are going to go in the White House and they're going to be manipulating personnel. They're going to be manipulating policy. And so let's say, for example, Netanyahu is pushing Trump really hard on a war with Iran. And Trump, to his credit, put his foot down and said no for many months. And even when they wanted him to intervene in June, it was very limited. I'm not happy that he bombed Iran, but it could have been a lot worse. And that is just objectively true. And that's because Trump is in the driver's seat and he's got some people that are backing him up. If he's out there falling asleep on the campaign trail in Georgia or Pennsylvania or whatever, they're going to get stuff past the goalie. They're going to get things through because he's not going to be fully in control.
Well, and look at the psychology. They know.
That was another great point. Although he bombed Iran, it was a very limited operation. And it was the exact same thing in Venezuela. Although he went and launched an attack on Venezuela, it was still a limited operation. If he's not in charge over there, it's going to be a lot more than just a limited operation, I can tell you that.
He wants to win, and so they'll say, sir, we've got to do this. And yeah, it helps a little, but nothing compared to actual developments and things. And we know that they're always trying to hide things from him. This is like we saw in the first administration. So I'm going to say it right now. Trump, yeah, okay, go for Mike Lindell for governor of Minnesota, stuff like that. Pick and choose a few. But maybe do 3 or 4 events a month. But what we really want is action, and you addressing the American people, and you bringing out these issues. We'll give your advice to President Trump, because this is such an obvious trap. You see her power trip in the interview. I know you've seen it. People have it. We should play it. We dig it up. She's like, well, they don't know it yet. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going back on the campaign trail. Ha, ha, ha. And Trump's like, well, I guess it's important. I guess I'm told I'm going. Again, this is outrageous. No, that is not the interest of his time. It's great to have crowds out there. It's fun, all that. No, we need him engaged. And we need him not worried about what Jimmy Kimmel is saying with no ratings or what Vanity Fair is saying. But again, it's nothing against it. There's all these 79-year-old people like Trump and Wiles. They still think ABC News is important. They don't understand. They go look at the ratings and go, ABC Nightly News, 2 million viewers. Nick Fuentes' nightly show, 20 million viewers. They
to 35 demographic, they're all getting their news on TikTok. They're all getting their news Trump in 24 because he was on TikTok, because he made a deal. And unlike the Republicans that sort of turned their noses up at it, he was there and fought the culture war among the young people. And that's the next generation. Trump was like, oh no, I have to go and interview with like Barbara Walters or something. I have to go on like 60 Minutes and I care about what the New York Times says. He still deeply cares about the mainstream media and Hollywood. He wants to be their champion. And so if I'm him, I say you got to go hard and fast. There is urgency. You have to be swift. You have to outmaneuver and have a faster tempo than the deep state. And you need to focus on the things that are going to win the voters back, specifically the young people. And that's things like affordability. It's crime. It's ending the wars. And if you're out there running this campaign, it's unfortunately the prophecy that I gave last year, which is you actually don't have the full 4 years. You're going to have like realistically about maybe 15, 18 months. And then they're going to start campaigning for the midterms. They're going to be so busy. Then they're going to lose. And then everyone's going to be campaigning for 2028. And half the cabinet will be in that position. Then you're in 28. And it's like, so you never actually get a chance to govern. And this is my problem. It's like when we vote every year, are we going to get 4 years of Trump pushing hard, trying to get victories? Are we going to get like 3 months of executive orders and then like 3 years and 9 months of crap where they're like campaigning and trying to make everybody happy and they're listening to the donors and they're just kind of sitting on their hands, stalling, running out the clock? Because that is exactly what happened in the first term. And sadly, like I said, it's deja vu all over again. So I think that you're right. Trump should maybe pick a few critical races where he can make a difference. And those are the races that'll make a difference for him. He should maybe do one event per week, keep his schedule light, and he should really
But anyways, guys, again, this video was from 2 or so weeks ago. He actually pointed out quite a few things which were surprisingly accurate. But we're going to have to see his real reaction when he comes back. And I can't wait to share that with you guys. With that being said, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.